So the month of December is over, and therefore it's time for my monthly wrap-up. Now, in December I read a total of 5 books, 1 comic, and I listened to 6 audiobooks. That is a good count by my experience, but most of them were really short, so kinda evens out, I guess. Then I read The Spooks Battle by Delaney. This is the 4th book in the Warstone Chronicles. And shit is going down, I can tell you that much. I can't say too much without spoiling, because this is, as I said, the 4th book in a series. But it was fairly enjoyable. Things that annoyed me in the 3rd book wasn't that big a factor in this one, or the character had evolved past it, and that was enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of this series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I also read The Spook's Mistake by Delaney. This is the 5th book in the series, and the last book I have on my shelf. I need more, because shit is still going down, and at the beginning of this I was kind of disappointed. It felt like a filler book, because the series is 13 books long, and you have to have some filler books to manage that. At least I thought so, and I thought this would be it, but after like the first 100 pages or so, I realized that was not the case, and this was a strong book on its own. So far it is the strongest book in the series, but because of the start that seemed like just filler, as I said, it only got a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Alcatraz vs. the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. I am a big Brandon Sanderson fan. He's one of my go-to authors, and when I learned he had written a children's series, I thought this would be easy reads, and this was an easy read, but it was also kind of disappointing. Not that the world and the magic system wasn't unique and awesome on its own, that is... Well, you can see that it is Brandon Sanderson that wrote this. But I had a feeling I'd seen the characters in his works before, and also the random stopping in the middle of fighting scenes and just talking from Alcatraz's side, just the way it was written really kind of put a big break on it for me, and therefore I only gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Witches by Roald Dahl. Now, Roald Dahl is a Brit, but he spoke fluent Norwegian, and both his parents were Norwegian, and I hadn't read a single Roald Dahl book in my life. I'd listened to The Magic Finger on audiobook when I was younger, but I hadn't read anyone, so I decided that it was time I started, and I picked up The Witches and I read it and I enjoyed it. I think I would have enjoyed it more when I was younger, because at some points it was just ridiculously childish, and that has its charms on its own, really, but it wasn't really what I was looking for at the moment, but I should have known. But it ended up getting 4 out of 5 stars. Then, the last book I read in both December and 2015 was a Christmas gift, and it's the best Christmas gift I've gotten in a long time, and I'm a childhood fan, and it should come as no surprise if you know me, and that was the illustrated Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. This was so beautiful. I can't say anything else that it was beautiful. Like, I loved the series when I was younger, but I haven't reread it in a while, and I've only read it in Norwegian, so reading this in English for the first time was like reading the series. I knew what was gonna happen, but I totally discovered the language and the world and the characters all afresh, and it was such a great experience, and the illustrations are beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of them in illustrated editions. I had already thought of doing a reread of this series during 2016, but now I think I will do 1 book every year, because I want to read the rest of the illustrated editions right now. But it got 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. If I could give it more, I totally would, because the illustrations were beautiful and the writing was great, and it's everything I remember it from when I was a child. And I never thought I would be able to say that about Harry Potter again, because I've read it so many times. Like, I read the first book like 14 times. Then the comic book I read was ElfQuest, The Final Quest Volume 12. And I need the next one. Like, I can't say anything because there is so much leading up to this series and all the other stories in the series, and I can't say anything without spoiling like everything. Everything. But I need the next one because if what I fear may happen happens, I don't know if I want to read the rest of it. And it got 5 out of 5 stars. And it is by Wendy and Richard Pini. The first book I listened to was Night of Cake and Puppets by Laini Taylor. I've read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy and I really enjoyed it, and I also really enjoyed Mick and Susanna, and those are the main protagonists in this short story. This is a short story about their first date and how it came to be, really. And I don't like love stories. If you've been following my channel for a while, you will know that I don't like love stories, but this was the cutest love story ever. Like, it had magic and tea and snow and violin music and puppets, and it was really adorable, so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is a story everyone has heard about, probably because it's a cult classic, and it was enjoyable to listen to. I have a problem with the writing style of that time, and that I've seen that I have a problem with throughout books from that time. But it was an enjoyable story. It was not what I expected, although I knew what it was gonna be, but I'm glad I listened to it, and it got a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to The Shadow Cats by Ray Carson. This is her first short story related to the Girl of Fire and Thorn trilogy, and it's about Elisa's older sister Elodia when Elisa was still a child, and I think it was supposed to throw some light over Elodia's character and why she may be so hard on Elisa, but I think that the way Elodia was in the trilogy was a much better picture of who she was than this short story, because in this one she only seemed hard and angry and not very likable at all. But the writing style is still what I'm used to, and the narrator, Jennifer Keda, is doing a bang-up job of this, so it got a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to The Shattered Mountains, also a Girl of Fire and Thorn short story by Ray Carson. In this one we followed Mara from her village when it was attacked until we get to know her in the original books, and it was enjoyable. I really enjoyed Mara as a character, and this was a lot more action-packed, and I was like sitting in suspense listening to it because although I knew what was going to happen, I wanted to know what was going to happen, and therefore it got a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to The Kingsguard, also a short story for the Girl of Fire and Thorn trilogy by Ray Carson, and in this one we follow Hector as he becomes a Kingsguard and the trials he has to go through to prove himself to his commander and the other guards. It was interesting. I didn't really have like that big connection to the character Hector in the original series, so this wasn't a must for me to listen to, but it was enjoyable and it threw some light over some plot thingies in the main story, so I totally recommend checking all these 3 stories out if you like the trilogy. And it got a 4 out of 5 stars. Then Audible was giving away an audiobook as a Christmas present, and that was The Chimes by Charles Dickens. And as I said earlier, I'm not that big of a fan of the writing style from this classical period that we all know about, and I haven't read any Charles Dickens like ever, so this was my first experience of reading his books or listening to it, and it was enjoyable. I liked it. It was a pleasant surprise. It was not really action but exciting to listen to, and I saw a lot of similarities to A Christmas Carol that he's also written, that I've only watched the movie of. I haven't read it, as I said, and I liked it, and I am looking forward to listen to more books by him. And it ended up getting a 3 out of 5 stars. And that is it for today. That was my December wrap-up. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you want to read any of them, and I will see you guys later. Bye!